In this 1-hour English lesson, you're going to learn a lot of advanced vocabulary to help you sound fluent. And at the end, you're going to complete a quiz to test your English level. So make sure you watch right till the end. Let's get started. First, you're going to learn all the airport vocabulary that you need to sound fluent and natural the next time you travel. Woohoo! You're going on vacation. You know exactly where you want to go. So let me give you the airport vocabulary that you need. The very first thing you should do is, of course, pick your airline. Your airline is the company that you're going to use to travel with. So the most popular airline in the world, as far as I know, is Qatar Airways. Delta is a really popular airline as well. British Airways is pretty common, and United is a very popular one as well. So the very first thing you do is you pick your airline, the company that you use to travel with. Now, airfare is just the cost of your ticket. So the word fare is generally used to talk about cost of travel and transportation. So here we're just adding the word air in front of it so you know it's for an airline, airfare. And when you're deciding on your airfare, you have to pay attention if it's a one-way or a round trip. Because let's say it tells you your airfare is $300, but that's just for a one-way ticket, which means it's only going to get you to your destination. It's not going to get you back again. So that's called a round trip. Round, like a circle, you go there and you come back. So you can have a one-way ticket or a one-way airfare or a round trip. And then once you book your airfare with your preferred airline, they're going to give you your ticket. So your ticket, most people just get an electronic ticket. That's also called your boarding pass. Your boarding pass. Remember the word boarding because I'm going to talk about it again later. So your boarding pass. That has all your flight information. It has your name. It has the name of the airline. It has the flight number. It has the time, the departure, and the arrival as well. It has all that information on your boarding pass. And most people just get electronic boarding passes now, your e-boarding pass. So you booked your one-way or your round trip, you have your ticket, your boarding pass, you get to the airport. Now the first thing you're going to do is check a bag. If you are checking a bag. So what does it mean to check a bag? When you check a bag, it's when you have a larger suitcase, a larger bag, and you put the bag under the plane. So you leave it at the conveyor belt and they take care of your bag. You just drop it off. But keep in mind that now a lot of airlines will limit how many bags you get. Some of them don't even allow you to bring any bags on the plane unless you pay extra for it. So you need to check with the airline or check your ticket because it will tell you how many checked bags you're allowed. So if you're checking a bag, that's the very first thing you would do at the airport. You would check your bag. Now, if you're not checking your bag, you have a carry-on. A carry-on. So that's the name of the suitcase, the bag, the backpack that you carry on to the plane. You bring that bag with you onto the plane. So you do not check that bag. If somebody sees you and they say, "Oh, would you like to check that bag?" You say, "No, this is a carry-on." You don't check it, okay? So that's really important. So you either check your bag or you have your carry-on bags, your carry-on suitcase, and then you go through security or you go through customs. Now, security is when you're going to put your carry-on, your purse, any of your belongings into the little bin, and it goes through the camera so they can see what's in your bag, and then they're going to check you as well to make sure you're not bringing anything prohibited onto the plane. So you go through security. Now, if you have a domestic flight means you're flying within your country. If you have a domestic flight, then you don't need to go through customs. However, if you have an international flight, which means you're flying to a different country, you also need to go through customs. When you go through customs, that is security to make sure that you are allowed to enter the country that you're traveling to. So they might check your visa. If you are required to have a visa to enter that country, you might have to fill out some additional forms as well. So after you go through security and you go through customs, if you need to go through customs, now you're officially in the airport, and this is where you're going to board your plane. So notice I said to board. Remember before I said you have a boarding pass? Well, that word boarding comes from the verb to board. The verb to board a plane, simply means you get on a plane. But that's the word we use, to board the plane. And your ticket is going to have your boarding time. The boarding time is the time you get on the plane, and then the departure time is the time the plane actually takes off. So when the plane takes off, it leaves the ground and it goes into the air. So of course you have to board the plane first because everybody needs to get settled into their seats. They need to get their bags put in the proper place. They have to do all the pre-flight security and all of that as well. So generally you board half an hour before departure, before takeoff, before you leave. And you're going to board your plane at a specific terminal and gate. So a terminal and a gate, that's just the names that they use to organize the airport, because airports can be really, really large. So they need to divide the airport into different sections, and those sections are called terminals. Generally, they're A, B, C, but it's possible they could be 1, 2, 3. Terminal A, Terminal B, Terminal C. And then within each terminal, there are different gates. The gate is specific to the flight that you are boarding. So if you're boarding flight 304, that's going to leave at Terminal A, gate 24. So first you get to Terminal A, then you'll see all the different gates, and you have to find the right gate, the right waiting room. You can think of the gate just as the office number, the waiting room to board the flight. And then you're just gonna sit at your gate and you're going to wait for the boarding call. The boarding call is when they're going to invite the passengers to board the plane. Now, the worst thing that can happen is that your flight is delayed. To be delayed. This is an expression you should absolutely add to your vocabulary because there's a 50% chance or higher that your flight is going to be delayed. And when your flight is delayed, it just means it's late. It's late. It's not leaving on time. So if your flight was supposed to leave at 3 o'clock and there's a half an hour delay, that means it's not leaving until 3:30. So you don't want that to happen, but most likely it will. Your flight will be delayed. Now, another possibility is that you have a layover or a stopover. They're the exact same thing. There are just two different words to describe them. Layover, stopover. This is when you're going from destination A to destination B. This is your final destination, but you need to go to somewhere else before you arrive at your final destination. It could be to pick up other passengers, to drop off other passengers, to refuel. There could be many different reasons why you need to go to another destination first. If you do that, it's called a layover or a stopover. If you don't do that, it's called a direct flight. When you go from point A to point B without stopping, it's called a direct flight. So your best scenario is that you have a direct flight without any delays. Wouldn't that just be awesome? It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it's perfect. A direct flight without any delays, and you have a carry-on bag, not a checked bag, so you can easily get on and off the flight. That is the ideal scenario. One more thing I want to share with you before you go, and this is where you sit on the plane. So when you get on the plane, you're going to see an aisle, Don't let the spelling confuse you. The spelling and the pronunciation are very different. It's pronounced aisle, okay? Now, if you sit closest to the aisle, that is the aisle seat, Now, if you sit closest to the window, that's the window seat, Aisle seat, window seat. And if you're unlucky, you might be stuck in the dreaded middle seat. And I think it's pretty obvious where the middle seat is. It's between the aisle and the window. So what about you? Where's your favorite seat? Do you prefer the aisle seat or the window seat? As for me, I prefer the aisle seat because if I'm in a window, I feel a little claustrophobic, to be honest. I like the ability of the aisle seat to just get up if I need to without having to disturb anyone else. So I always request an aisle seat. So now you have lots and lots of vocabulary that you need, airport vocabulary that will help you the next time you're traveling. So why don't you take some of your favorite new expressions, practice them, and put some example sentences in the comments. Now you're going to learn how to record a professional voicemail message. You'll first see an example message and then you can write your own script and record your own. So here we have Sophia. Let's take a look at her voicemail message to see what information we should include. So here's her message. Hello, you've reached Sophia Sanchez, Senior Project Manager at Google. I'm sorry I missed your call. Please leave me a message and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you. Now, let's look at this message line by line to see what kind of information we should provide. Okay, so our first line. Hello, you've reached Sophia Sanchez, Senior Project Manager at Google. Now notice I started with hello. You can of course start with hi. We definitely are not going to start with hey. No, that is too informal for this situation. Now, both of these are acceptable. Keep in mind, hello is slightly more professional. However, hi is slightly more friendly and welcoming. So the choice is yours depending on what tone you want to convey, but both of them are professional. Okay, and then we have you've reached. So this is the standard. It will always be in the present perfect. By now, you're well aware of the present perfect. You've reached. And this is the standard verb as well. To reach someone. You've reached. So this doesn't change. Now, you have the option if you want to say you have reached. And like I said, you may notice that English speakers in their voicemail message will choose to not use contractions. So whether you want to use you have or you've, either is fine, but it's going to be with the verb reach. So you've reached, and then I recommend giving both your first and last name. If it was your personal voicemail, you might only give your first name. But in a professional context, I would include your first and last name, but not your middle name. So only first and last, not your middle name. Okay, and then notice we have our job title. Now, I separate it here with a comma because a comma tells me to take a pause, which I'm going to do. So notice how I would read this. You've reached Sophia Sanchez, Senior Project Manager at Google. So I take a brief pause between my name and my job title. So here, whatever your job title may be, graphic designer, software developer, receptionist, whatever your job title is, it would go after your name, separated by a brief pause. And then at with your company. So here at Google, but whatever your company is, you would just put your name. Okay, I'll read this one more time. Hello, you've reached Sophia Sanchez, Senior Project Manager at Google. So that's how I would say it. That's what I mean by a warm but professional tone. Now, in everyday English, if I'm speaking with my friends, I would be a little more enthusiastic, which I'm not going to do. So I'll give you an example of being very enthusiastic, which I don't want you to do. If I said, hello, you've reached Sophia Sanchez, Senior Project Manager at Google. That's too enthusiastic. We want warm and professional in our tone. Okay, now let's look at the next line. I'm sorry I missed your call. Now here, the verb to be, we generally always put it in a contraction, so it would sound a little awkward to say I am sorry, simply because native English speakers always put the verb to be in a contraction. So here I would stick to the contraction. I'm sorry I missed your call. So this is a pleasantry that we include. There's alternatives. You could say, I can't take your call at the moment. I can't take your call at the moment. So this is an alternative. So this could be, option A, option B, but you can also include this, I'm sorry, for this one as well. So you could say, I'm sorry, I can't take your call at the moment. That's another one. And notice here, just at the moment. So that means at the present time, an expression of time. Or we can have a option C. And again, you could include I'm sorry in front. I can't answer your call at the moment. So here, what's the difference between these two? Yeah, just the verb. So take or answer. Either one of them is acceptable. Or we can have an option D. I can't come to the phone right now. I can't come to the phone right now. And this right now, these two could be interchanged. So I could say, I can't come to the phone at the moment, or I can't answer your call right now. So those can be exchanged. And then you can put I'm sorry in front of all of them. Now, why do we put I'm sorry? It's just a pleasantry. It's to express that you wish you were there to talk to the person. So it's just a polite thing that we generally include in our message. Okay, the next line. Please leave me a message and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. So here's our standard information. Please leave me a message. That's just a polite thing to say. And all, so here I'm using a contraction. Of course, this is I will. And why am I using the future simple here? Yeah, because I'm making a commitment That's why I have it in the future simple for a commitment. And I'll get back to you as soon as possible. So here, this as soon as possible, this is an expression of time reference, and there could be alternatives you could include here. Okay, but this get back to you, that's a pretty standard expression. Now let's look at some alternatives. So notice it starts the same. Please leave me a message and I'll return your call as soon as possible. So here instead of saying get back to you, is just return your call. Now, I wouldn't say that one is more formal than the other. You might be thinking return is a more formal verb than get back to you, but I wouldn't say that because get back to you is just a very common expression in English. Okay, so we can have our option A, our option B, and let's see. Okay, so instead of as soon as possible, you could say as soon as I can, for example. So you have this different option here that you could change. And another time reference, within 24 hours. So within, it's giving the final deadline. So if this is 24 hours later, so it's from the moment you called and then you count 24 hours. And within is any time from now until 24 hours later. So that's within. And why might I say within 24 hours? Well, you're giving the expectation that the person can hear from you shortly. And certain industries might have standards for how quickly they respond to client requests or how quickly they respond to customers. And because of that, you might want to give the person calling the idea that they can expect to hear from you within a certain time frame. Okay. So different alternatives here. And the next line. So notice how I end with just thank you. I don't say goodbye. It is not common in voicemail messages to end with goodbye. We generally end with just thank you. But it would be possible to say have a nice day, or have a great day, for example, just a pleasantry if you'd like. Now you're going to learn all the social media vocabulary that you need, and you're going to do it in a listening exercise as well. We're going to watch a very brief clip of a millennial attending a job interview with a baby boomer. If you don't know what a millennial and a baby boomer are, they're people from different generations. So they're very different ages, okay? And just imagine what it would be like to have an interview with someone who just graduated from university and someone who's about ready to retire. Very different worlds they're coming from, right? So this is a clip that I use with my students in the Finally Fluent Academy to teach them lots of natural expressions, phrasal verbs, and help them feel really confident sounding like a native English speaker. So here's what we'll do. I'm going to play a very brief portion of this clip, okay? And in this clip, Amy, the young lady, Amy is explaining why she cannot start work at 8 o'clock in the morning, okay? So, listening exercise, here is part of the clip, and I want you to fill in the blank. I'll play it 3 times. Warning, Amy, like most millennials and many native English speakers, Amy speaks very fast, okay? So this is going to come at you very quickly. So get ready. I'll play it 3 times and put your answer in the comments. Okay, here we go.
I Skype with my French boyfriend in Paris until like 3 in the morning. I Skype with my French boyfriend in Paris until like 3 in the morning. I Skype with my French boyfriend in Paris until like 3 in the morning.
So, did you get it? That was fast, wasn't it? Really fast. But I'll be honest with you, that is how many native English speakers talk. And that's why it's so important to study native English speakers and get comfortable with this natural pace, okay? Because that's what it's going to be like when you're having conversations in the real world. So, here's what Amy said. Did you get some of this at least? Maybe you got our key word, which was Skype. Skype is a method of communication. I don't know about you, but I use Skype all the time. I Skype with my friends, I Skype with my students, I Skype with my family. It's one of the methods of communication I use a lot. Now, you may not have noticed, but I just used Skype as both a noun and a verb. Maybe even go back that last 20 seconds and listen to that again. So that's what we're going to talk about now. We're going to talk about the most common methods of communication and how you can use them in both noun form and verb form. So let's jump onto my computer and I'll use the explanation that I prepared for my students in the Finally Fluent Academy. Here we go.
I Skype with my French boyfriend in Paris until like 3 in the morning.
I Skype with my French boyfriend in Paris until like 3 in the morning. So here, notice she's specifying in the morning. Now, would this be AM or PM? AM, right? So she could have said until like 3 a.m. Now here, it makes sense that she provides the in the morning or the AM because it wouldn't be obvious based on the context, right? So it makes sense that she specified this. And here we have a word filler. We can just get rid of that. Now, I want you to notice this. I Skype with my French boyfriend. What is this here? Is this a noun, a verb? What do you think? So this is a verb. We're using Skype as a verb, okay? Now what verb tense is she using? All verbs are in a verb tense. So what verb tense is she using here? Do you see it? Present simple. And why? Why is this in the present simple? Because she's letting the baby boomer know that she Skypes with her boyfriend as a routine action. Now, this is something we do in English a lot, and that's very natural, is to use our methods of communication as verbs, okay, instead of nouns. So let's take a look at some of the common forms of communication and how you can use them naturally in sentences. So here, notice, these are all verbs, all of these, because we have subject, verb. I texted, I messaged, I IM'd. This stands for instant messenger. I IM'd. I Skyped, emailed, FaceTimed last night. So all of these are in the past, right? I texted, messaged, IM'd, Skyped, emailed, FaceTime. So you'll have to take some time for the pronunciation of these because they all end in ED. Now, if you want to use the noun, you could say, I sent him a text or I sent him a message. Now here, because it's a noun, we have an article. But when we get to IM or email, it's a vowel, right? So we need an as our article. I sent him a text, I sent him an email. Honestly, this one is way more common for native English speakers, but you can definitely say this one too. It doesn't sound awkward or anything like that, but just it's very common to use it as the verb. Now, depending on the mode of communication, you could also use chatted. And here, notice you chat with someone. I chatted with him on Messenger, on Facebook, on Skype. So when you chat with someone, it implies more of a direct two-way communication back and forth, at the same time. Whereas an email, you send an email, 30 minutes later or even 24 hours later, you get an email back. So it's not as instant. If it's instant, you could use chat with someone on, okay? Now, you could also say we talked on Facebook. This would also imply an instant back and forth. We talked on Skype, we talked on Messenger, we talked on IM. Either one is fine. And perhaps the least common, I called him. So notice, you call someone, you phone someone. You don't call to someone. Sometimes I hear that, but it's not correct. I called him, past tense, right? I called him, I phoned him. So we use phone as a verb, even though phone is a noun. Do you have a phone? Yes, of course I have a phone, but here we're using it as a verb, okay? Very common. Both of these are common though. I called him, I phoned him. And if he doesn't pick up, you can say, I left him a message. I left him a voicemail. So many different ways to communicate with people these days with modern technology, and there are different ways we form these sentences grammatically. So make sure you spend some time in the practice exercises getting comfortable with the most common ways that you communicate.
I Skype with my French boyfriend in Paris until like 3 in the morning.
All right, so now you can feel really confident talking about the different methods of communication in both noun and verb form. But of course, you need to practice. So I want you to form 3 sentences using 3 different methods of communication and put them in both the noun form and the verb form, okay? Do that in the comments below. Now let's talk about an important grammar concept to help you sound more fluent when you're using your advanced vocabulary. And that's how to use the structure having plus past participle. The past participle is your third form of the verb. Now we use this structure when the action is complete. So whatever the action is, if the structure having plus past participle is used, you know that the person has done that action. Now, as for sentence structure, this is commonly used to start a sentence. So in that case, notice your sentence starts with the verb having. It doesn't start with a subject. It starts with having. And it's just implied that whoever is talking is the subject. So for example, one of the most common ways to use this is having said that. Having said that. So said, of course, is the third form of the verb say. Having said that. Now, when somebody uses this expression, they're letting you know that they're going to reference something that they've previously said. In this expression, having said that, the that is the words that the person previously said. Now, normally they just said it. It was what they just said. It is possible that it could be something they said a while ago, but generally it's they just said it. So for example, you could be in a meeting and your boss is praising everyone, saying, awesome job, guys. We really did a great job this week. Our sales are up, our performance is up, and those are the words. Now he wants to transition and he could say, having said that, so he's referencing the words he just said. Remember, the words he just said were positive, okay? So you could say, having said that, we still have a lot of work to do. So he's giving you all this praise, but he wants you to keep in mind that there's still work to do. So he's balancing it out. Having said that, we still have a lot of work to do. So that's a very common way to use this expression. But you don't have to only use it with the verb say. You can use this with pretty much any verb. But remember, it's to show that the action is complete. Let's say my friend and I are talking about marathons, and my friend wants to run a marathon and is talking about training for this marathon. Now I could say, having run a marathon. Having run a marathon, I can give you some tips. So I'm letting my friend know that this action of running a marathon is complete for me. I've done it. I've run a marathon. Having run a marathon, I can give you some tips. So we commonly use this just to show the experiences that we've had that are complete for us in order to educate or in order to inform or maybe even in order to show sympathy or empathy for someone, to show that you understand their situation because you've experienced it as well. Now, I talked about how most commonly it's used to start a sentence. This isn't the only location. You can use it as the second part of a sentence and it's going to follow a comma. So for example, I could say, New York City is known for its busy streets. And having lived there, I can confirm that this is true. So notice, it starts the next part of a sentence after a comma, and I'm just using and to show that connection between the two ideas. Of course, I can divide these into two separate sentences and say, New York City is known for its busy streets, period. Having lived there, I can confirm that is true. So the choice is yours. It doesn't really matter. It probably just depends on the sentence. But you will see this most commonly at the start of a sentence. And the important thing to remember is that the action is complete. So now you know how to use this advanced sentence structure. Of course, it's your turn to practice. So I want you to leave 3 different examples using 3 different verbs, so you also really get comfortable with the past participle because you need the third form of the verb, which is the least common verb used. So I want you to get comfortable with that as well. So leave 3 different examples in the comments below. Now you're going to learn 10 different ways that you can greet someone, hello, naturally in English. So the first one, we can take our very textbook, hello, how are you? And we can actually just take this simple expression and make it sound way more natural with 2 very easy changes. We can simply say, hey, how are ya? Hey, how are ya? Already it sounds so much more natural. So how could you answer this? In our textbook expression, hello, how are you? Most students would reply with, I am fine, thank you, right? We don't want that. So you can say, hey, how are ya? And you can reply with, good, thanks, and you? Good, thanks, and you? Again, we can take our textbook expression and make it really natural by turning it into the present continuous. And we can simply say, how are you doing? How are you doing? And then you can answer, I'm doing great. This one is my favorite. I use it 90% of the time. How's it going? How's it going? All my students know this one because, of course, I'm going to teach them the way I greet people. How's it going? And to reply, it's going great. It's going great. Very important to notice that. It's going great. What's up? What's up? That's a fun expression. What's up? And to reply, not too much. Not too much. This one's a little more of a complicated structure, but native English speakers use it a lot. So I recommend that you become familiar with it. How have you been? How have you been? So try to match my pronunciation. How have you been? And to answer, been great, thanks. We can keep our answer nice and short by cutting out the auxiliary verb and just using the main verb. Been great, thanks. This one's fun. Long time no see. Long time no see. 4 words. Long time no see. Long time no see. And to answer, I know, too long. I know, too long. So we're agreeing with the person's statement that, yeah, it has been a long time since I've seen you. That's really what we're saying if we were to say it in a full sentence, but we don't need all of that complicated grammar. We can just say, long time no see. I know, too long. So by adding that too long, you're making a statement. You're making a personal statement that you would like to see that person more often. What's new? What's new? Now here, instead of just using a not too much, which would be the standard reply, you can actually tell them what's new. What's new? I just started a new job. Oh, cool. Slightly different. What's new and exciting? We like to add this. Add in the exciting just to put pressure on you that something exciting should be happening in your life right now, right? What's new and exciting? Well, if someone says this, you better think of something exciting to reply back with. I'm going to China next week. What's new and exciting? I'm going to China next week. Oh, super cool. And then the conversation will develop naturally. What's going on? What's going on? Not much. So here, just changing the not too much, which would be the natural reply with not much. What's going on? Not much. Boring. I know, it's a pretty boring answer. Doesn't give you a lot to go on in the conversation, but it's a common way to reply. What's happening? What's happening? Same old, same old. So here I'm actually saying same old, but notice for pronunciation, I'm really just dropping those D's. Same old, same old, same old, same old. It's a lot easier to say. What's happening? Same old, which means nothing. Basically, just the same thing happening again. Same old, same old. All right, so now you have 10 very natural greetings and 10 ways you can answer these greetings. So let me know in the comments, which one of these was new for you? Which one do you like the most? And which one do you plan to use? I can't wait to hear your reply in the comments. Now you're going to learn all the different ways to sound really natural when you say thank you. So let's have a situation where you could say thank you. Well, I have this free speaking guide that I give to my students. So if you haven't downloaded this yet, I want you to download this for free. Just go to my website, jforrestenglish.com, and you can download your free guide, How to Speak English Fluently and Confidently in 6 Easy Steps. So this is the reason why I get the most thank yous from students. They download the guide and then they reply to the message and they want to thank me. So why don't you try that? Go download this guide and then you can send me a message using one of these other expressions. How fun will that be? Okay, so of course you could say thank you. Now, there's one really easy way that you can just turn this simple thank you into a really natural expression. And I'm sure you know it. You can simply say thanks. Thanks. So one word, right? Thanks. And of course, we're adding that S on thanks. The S is not optional. We don't have the S on thank you. It's not there. It's never there. But we have the S on thanks. So thanks. And then if you want to be really friendly, you can add an exclamation point or an emoji smiley face afterwards. Thanks. Okay, so that's a really simple, but definitely the most natural way. That's absolutely how the majority of native English speakers are going to thank you. Thanks. Okay, another one. This is taking our thanks and just adding two simple words to it. Thanks so much. Thanks so much. So this one just really adds that emphasis to the thanks. And you can still add your smiley face emoji or exclamation point afterwards as well. Thanks so much. All right, next, you could use the expression, thanks a ton. Thanks a ton. Okay, so a ton in English is like a slang way of saying a lot. For example, you can say, oh, I have a ton of work to do. I have a ton of emails to reply to. I have a ton of reports to read. I need a ton of money. So we're just using a ton to mean a lot. And this is something that native English speakers do all the time. So there's a little bonus expression for you that you learned today. So we're taking the same concept, and of course you can say thanks a lot. That could be one of these expressions, right? Thanks a lot. But just to sound that much more natural, that much more like a native English speaker, you can say thanks a ton. Thanks a ton, which simply means thanks a lot. The next one, this is a really fun expression. It's really cute, but definitely it's not slang in any way, so you could use this in any situation. Thanks a bunch. Thanks a bunch. Okay, now a bunch can be used in just the same way as a ton. So they both mean a lot in slang natural English. So you can say, I have a bunch of work to do. I have a bunch of emails to reply to. This laptop cost me a bunch. I wish I had a bunch of money. So again, it means a lot. So you can say thanks a bunch, which means thanks a lot. But I like this one because it's cute. Thanks a bunch. Okay, another one. This is a really great expression, and I'm sure you'll kind of understand the meaning if I said, thanks a million. Thanks a million. Well, a million is a lot, right? If you had a million emails in your inbox, you would have a lot of emails. If you had a million reports to write, you would have a lot of reports to write, right? So by saying thanks a million, we're really just saying thanks a lot because a million is a lot, right? So really, these are three different ways of simply saying thanks a lot. But just notice it's all a ton, a bunch, a million. So they all need the article a. And of course, they're all thanks, thanks with an S. Okay, so there's three different ways to simply say thanks a lot. And the last one, this one, it doesn't even use thank you or thanks. And because of that, it might be one of my favorites just because it's a little bit unique. It's a little bit unexpected, but definitely still very popular, very common, very natural. And it's you're the best. You're the best. So, for example, let's say my friend surprised me and came over to my house and brought me my favorite chocolate chip cookies. Of course, I could say, thanks so much. Thanks a million. Thanks a ton. I can absolutely thank her, but I could also say, you're the best. You're the best. And And at the same time, this implies the thank you, and it implies that I'm really happy, right? So because it's a little bit unique, I feel like it has a stronger meaning to it. So again, when you go download this speaking guide, this free guide, you could write back in your email and you could say, teacher, you're the best. Jennifer, you're the best. Or of course, you can use one of the other thanks expressions that I taught you. So there you go. Now you have a list of all these other ways to say thank you. So again, make sure you go download your free guide and then practice one of these expressions. And why don't you just leave it in the comment as well? Get that extra practice. Let me know which one of these expressions are new to you. Or do you know any other ways to say thank you? Because let me tell you, this is not an exhaustive list. There are definitely other ways, but these are my personal favorites. Finally, let's complete a test, and you're going to test yourself on 15 confusing words to see how advanced your English level is. Let's start the test now. So here's how this video is going to work. I'm going to show you a sentence and you're going to have two options and you have to decide which option correctly completes the sentence. Now, I'll only show the sentence for a couple seconds. So make sure you hit pause, take your time to read it, to answer it, and then hit play and I'll show you the answer and I'll explain why that answer is correct. Are you ready to go? Number one, there were people at the party than I had expected. The answer is fewer. There were fewer people at the party than I had expected. And the reason is we use fewer with countable nouns. You can count how many people there are. But we use less with uncountable nouns. So I could say, there was less rain. You can't count rain. There was less rain this year compared to last year. Number two, I'm just in the of a big project. And the answer is midst. This is a tricky one simply because of pronunciation. When you hear this in spoken English, I'm in the midst of a big project, it's easy to confuse this with mist. And to be in the midst of something is simply to be in the middle of something. So I'm in the middle of a big project. Number three, wow, that shirt really, your hair. And the answer is compliments with an E. These two words sound exactly the same in pronunciation. It's spelling that is different, but they have different meanings. Compliment in this example is when one thing, your shirt, combines really well with another thing, your hair. Compliment with an I is when you say something nice to someone. I love your shirt. Thanks for the compliment. If you want to learn more about compliment and compliment, you can look in the description for a link on a video on that topic. Number four, that movie had quite an on me. The answer is effect. It had quite an effect on me. The pronunciation is very similar. Effect, effect. There's a slight difference, but the spelling is important because affect is a verb and effect is a noun. And we need a noun. You know that because there's an article in the sentence. With the verb, I could say that movie affected me. If you want to learn more about affect and effect, you can look in the description for a link on that. Number five, Quizzes are a great way to your skills, to hone your skills. Again, similar in pronunciation, but the correct choice is hone. This is an expression to hone one's skills. This is simply to improve one's skills. Number 6, I didn't know at the party. I didn't know anybody at the party. Didn't is negative. In the English language, we do not like double negatives. You can only use one negative in a clause. And since I already have didn't, I can't use the negative nobody. I have to use anybody. Number 7, I don't like carrots. I don't like carrots either. Now, this is the same as number 6 because I don't is a negative. Neither is also a negative, so we can't use it. We want either. I don't like carrots either. To use neither, I could say, you don't like carrots? Neither do I. Neither do I. If you want to learn more about either and neither, you can look in the description for a video I created on this. And number 8, she has more she needs. She has more than she needs. Similar in pronunciation than, then, but they're two totally different words. Than we use in comparisons, more than, less than, fewer than, comparisons. Then is an adverb. It's used in time references. First, I'll eat lunch, then I'll go for a walk. Number 9, joining social clubs is, for all purposes, the solution to loneliness. For all intents and purposes. This is an expression in English, for all intents and purposes. This simply means in almost every situation, in virtually every situation. But when you say this at a natural pace, for all intents and purposes, for all intents and purposes, it sounds like intensive. Intensive is a word that people are very familiar with. Intense and is not something that people are familiar with, but the correct expression is intense and purposes. This is a very useful business or academic expression. It isn't really used in casual conversation too much. Number 10, we can discuss this after the meeting. We can discuss this further after the meeting. Further and farther both mean more. We can discuss this more in more detail after the meeting. We use further when we're talking about figurative, and we use farther when we're talking about literal. For example, we need to walk farther. We literally need to walk more. We need to walk farther to see the waterfall. If you want to learn more about this, look in the description for a link on a separate video. Number 11, you can down here. You can lie down here. Lay and lie, they have the same meaning, but lay is transitive. It needs an object. For example, lay the baby down here. Lay the blanket down here. You lay something. But lie is intransitive, so there's no object. Lie down here. Lie yourself down here. Lie down here. Number 12, that sweater is too for you. That sweater is too loose for you. This one is confusing because of the spelling. Do I need one O or two? It's easy to forget. Lose with one O is the opposite of win. Did you lose the game? Did you win the game? Did you lose the game? Loose with two O's, when we're talking about clothing, is when it doesn't fit closely to your body. So this shirt I'm wearing is not loose. It fits closely to my body. But this sweater, for example, is loose. Number 13, we should worked harder. We should have worked harder. Now, this is a mistake that many native speakers make because in spoken English, we take have, which is the grammatically correct choice, but we reduce it. We say it quickly and it sounds like of. You should have. You should have. You should have worked harder. So sometimes native speakers forget that it's actually have and not of, because that's what it sounds like in spoken English. So in spoken English, you can absolutely say you should have. You should have worked harder. But in written English, just remember that the correct choice is have. Number 14, I shouldn't have to the party. I shouldn't have gone to the party. Our verb here is go. The past simple is went, and the past participle is gone. This structure requires the past participle, the third form of the verb. Yesterday, I went to the party. I've gone to 3 parties this month. And finally, number 15, do you trust the most? Whom do you trust the most? Who and whom, it can be very tricky for students and native speakers to know the difference. Just ask yourself, do you need she or her? Do you need a subject or an object? She or her, he or him. I trust her the most. We need an object, not a subject, so you use whom. Who is your friend? She is my friend. In this case, we need a subject, so we use who. Now, I want you to keep expanding your vocabulary, so I recommend watching this lesson right now. And if you haven't already, you can get your free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can go to my website right here, and when you're ready, watch that next vocabulary lesson right now.